Welcome back to the channel. So you might notice different setup. So this is my living room. This is my kitty cat Nightmare. So she's decided to join us today. So yeah, bit different today, but I thought change is as good as a rest. And if you can see my pop collection, just ignore the fact that I am a massive nerd. So today, fifth video on the channel, but actually first in the series of back to school basics. So I'm gonna do a kind of two-part series with this. So I'm gonna do teacher part and a student part. So I thought teachers are probably going to be on leave or coming up to being on leave, and so I wanted to do a mini series to talk about how to plan for that, and how to kind of deal with the past year and how to kind of get ready, or how I get ready for the coming year. And then in August I will be doing a kind of student version. So again, for teachers it will be useful because it's kind of how I deal with getting them ready. So there is a part for teachers to play, and then that'll take us to September, hopefully. Gosh. And then we can get into some actual teaching stuff, and that'll be really exciting. I always think that the new term's really exciting, especially considering that this year it'll be, for me anyway, it'll be really brand new. So back to school basics. So it occurred to me when I was planning for this video that really, and again, I'm going to be simplifying, so please bear with me when I say this, but really teachers only really have three kind of three elements of mindset, and they kind of all flow together. So I've put together a handy little wheel, not the wheel of fortune. The mindset, I'm not sure. I don't know if we have to name it. I feel like as teachers we feel like we have to name everything, but I haven't named this yet. But basically I feel like we can break down the way that we feel and our creative, imaginative, cognitive space into three sections, and they do go in a cycle, particularly for me, and I think particularly over the year. But you can also see these things in individual projects and things that we do as well, and that might be just a particular lesson. But I can hear you screaming into your computer screens, what is this model, like what are the three things? And I say, whoa there, I'm going to get into that in just a second. So the first mindset of a teacher is the creative part. Now I've mentioned this first because it is the summer and it is predominantly, I feel like, what teachers love about the job, apart from the teaching itself obviously. But we like to put things together, we like to create resources, we like to look at what other people are doing and incorporate it and steal and change and modify and all that good stuff. And so the creative process, the creative mindset is my favorite mindset. I'm not gonna lie. I love making things for my students, I love making things for myself, I love making my job easier if I can. I like making the learning easier and more fun, and that's really what it's about. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the creative mindset and what it means and how it fits with the other two mindsets. So the first thing I would say about the mindset is that it is possibly, from a selfish point of view, the most enjoyable. So summer, I think, is always really cool because you get to plan out what you're going to do, you get to, imagine these resources in action, and nothing can ever go wrong because you created them, you know how they're going to work, and because you've not had human trials, everything goes according to plan and it's amazing. And that is really the essence of being a teacher. So being a teacher is, what do the students need to learn and how can I best deliver that information? And that is where creativity really comes into your planning. So what I would say is, be daring, be bold, particularly if you are going into a blended approach, or you are, your college or your institution, wherever you may teach, kind of changing things up. Use this time and use this opportunity to try something new. Now, I'm not saying take your curriculum, take your scheme of learning, take your scheme of work, whatever it is that you have, and throw it out the window and start again. That would be way too frightening and far too much work for one person. Obviously, if your team's decided to do that, then fair enough. But what I'm saying is, what have you always wanted to do? What have you wanted to do but never had the time, or never had the opportunity, or never had the backing, or whatever's been holding you back? Now is the time to think, right, how am I going to actually implement this and put it into practice? And that might be something simple as, I want to do a Kahoot. That might be, change it. I mean, it might be something small like that. It might be, I want to use, I can't think of the application now. I'm going to have a think. It's where you kind of print things and the students scan it. I'm going to have to link it in the description box. I'm really sorry. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I will link it in the description box. But it's pretty cool. Like, you print off, the teacher prints off answer things, answer barcodes, and the students scan what they think is the right answer, and then you get to kind of see that from your end. So that's pretty cool. Or it might be something a little bit bigger than that, and you might think, right, I'm going to make a Google site this year, or I'm going to put everything of mine onto Wakelet. Pick something and keep it realistic and keep it small, but or as big as you want, but just have the gusto to try, because ultimately that is what teaching is about. It's about trying new things. It's about seeing what works. It's about bringing your own personality and your own strengths into your profession, and your students will benefit from that in the long run, because you are passionate about it. So because you care, and because you have put time and effort and energy into creating whatever it is for them, they will thrive on that. I think off the back of that though, you need to make sure that you are not getting too sucked into the tech or the theme or what, the gimmick, if you like. I myself, I'll hold my hands up, I have done that. So I have been so driven by a particular thing that I've wanted to do. So it might be that I've wanted to get some pop culture reference into my class, and then I've gone pedal to the metal. Anyway, I've gone straight into that without considering what the substance of the lesson is. Major fail, because they loved whatever it was, the kind of hook of the lesson worked really well, but what did they learn? And I'm not saying that they walked away with absolutely nothing, because that's not true, but I know that I could have tailored it better to a question, or tailored it better to a particular assessment objective. So I think, from experience, I know how easy it is to go, oh, this is the best resource ever, the kids will love it. But it really is about taking that little step back and thinking, is this beneficial, or is this just a hook? And there's always going to be a place for hook, always. And there's always going to be that lesson where eyes are glazing, it's hot, it's I don't know, it's came to the end of half term or the term, and they're just like, and you're just like, that's when you get your hook lesson out. Because those sorts of lessons, you know, anything's better than nothing. And we have them, you know, that is the reality of teaching. You're not always going to get, you know, grade 9 or A pieces of work. Sometimes it's just about getting them to write their name. And I struggled with that, to be fair. I really struggled. I thought, you know, oh my goodness, what if someone comes in and they're not, you know, we're not doing what's on the scheme? Well, it doesn't matter. What matters is engagement. What matters is retention. What matters is them wanting to come to your lesson. I mean, obviously, if you teach in an institution where they are your students all the time, then that is a given. But you want them to enjoy being there. And sometimes you have to kind of weigh up your battles, and you have to weigh up whether it's worth fighting with the external variables to get 2 lines of work, or whether it's better to do something different, something a bit fun, something a bit, you know, curveball-y, but that gets them in and gets them talking and gets them doing something. So what I would say is substance over style. Yeah, it's great to have a great PowerPoint or a lovely Google whatever, or, you know, ClickView, or so many brilliant resources out there now. But what do they need to know? And that's where you focus your efforts. So just before I move on to the next mindset, I just want to briefly talk about collaboration. So the creative mindset, I feel, thrives when it is with other creative mindsets. So myself, I just recently had a day of joint planning with an amazing tutor who works at our sister site, and it was brilliant, and it was just so great to have these ideas and to share. And you know, we were coming up with kind of lessons that we could both deliver, but she was thinking how she could engage sports students, and I was thinking how I could engage like hair and beauty students. So together we developed resources that are kind of useful to a wide variety of students, but you know, delivering on the same topic, which is fantastic. It was, you know, if you can do that, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And I feel for those people that don't have that connection, because I know what it's like to be, particularly I think NQTs, because you know, you're new, you're fiery, you're passionate, you just want to, you know, make things for yourself and all that kind of great stuff. But sometimes it can not have direction. And again, I speak from experience with that, because I remember being an NQT myself and being so fired up, and you know, my mentor was always having to kind of give me mini projects so that I didn't just like kind of bulldoze my way into kind of wanting to do everything. But you know, link with people who are like-minded, link with people who have similar interests to you, but maybe, if you can, different areas, because it's always better to have a mixture of experience and interests and backgrounds than someone who's just the exact same as you. It's always better to have a little bit of variety so that you are getting a more holistic view of things. If you know, you don't have someone to plan with, and you don't have a kind of creative outlet, please comment down below, and you know, let's get a community, guys. Let's get a community going. Let's make this little slice of the YouTube internet ours, and let's kind of make those links. So feel free. All my contact details will be posted at the end of the video, so if you do want to get in touch, or you do want to, you know, try and find like-minded people, comment down below. And that leads me really nicely onto the next mindset in the kind of mindset wheel, which is the positive mindset. So we have the summer, we create the resources, we, plan our delivery, we set up our teacher file, ready for all those brand spanking new students, and we feel revved and raring to go. And that is amazing. And this is possibly for your students the most important mind frame. So this should always be used with students, regardless of your personal feelings or what they've done or what they haven't done in some cases. You always need to be positive, because we're all human. We are all human, and students come in a variety of different, I don't want to say flavours because that sounds really sick, but they're all individual, they're all different. We know that going into the job. I teach teenagers, so that comes with an extra layer of challenges, but then I couldn't teach really little ones, because that comes with a set of specific challenges as well. So the way to combat most challenge, I feel, is and I didn't learn this from being a teacher, but it is useful. I actually learned this in retail, but is to always answer with a smile if you can. And if you can't answer with a smile, you answer in a kind of neutral but positive tone. And I learned that while I worked in retail, dealing with very angry customers. As I was part of customer service team, and it's really, really hard sometimes when someone's screaming at you because they think that they're in the right and you are bound by policy or some kind of management rules, to stay in that positive mindset. However, if you can, then it diffuses the situation, because you are doing everything for that person and they know that you're doing everything, but they're frustrated about whatever it is that's frustrating them. They are not getting at you. And I think from a teaching point of view, that is so important to know. So I'm going to say it again. It is not you. It is the student. It is the student's parents or guardians. It is the student's friends. It is the fact that they have a cold or a stomach bug, or they've got their pets in hospital. It could be anything, but it is not you. It could be this subject. So, we all have that subject that we hated. And we all had that subject where we possibly took it out on our teachers just because we didn't like the subject. But it is not you. And as hard as that is sometimes to remember, it isn't. And this is why we have to stay positive, because if we let everybody else's stuff, keep, if we carried that, we would fall, and we would struggle. And it is tough. It is tough to be a teacher, because you're not just a teacher. We don't just go in, say hello, teach, throw some information at them and then go home. It's not as simple as that. We are there, we are their counsellors, we are their, I say family in kind of inverted brackets, and we are their support system. We, the amount of random questions that I get asked, that they've read on the internet, or that they're just genuinely curious about. You have to be everything, but you also have to be able and willing to offload, and to not take everything on board and not take everything to heart. and to kind of make sure that, whenever you're in your classroom or you're with your students, this is who you are, because that is what they need. And as well, that's what you need. You went into this profession for a reason, and that reason was probably because you like your subject. So show them that you like your subject. Positivity. Although, as we've just discussed, there are lots of times when we will not feel positive. We will have things going on. The students will make a comment that cuts us deep. You have an argument with a colleague before class, whatever it is. There will always be something, because again, we are human. And that takes us to our last mindset. So the negative mindset. And it is not something that gets discussed very often, if I'm being perfectly honest. Or at least not in my experience anyway. But it's important to acknowledge, teachers are stressed, overworked, sometimes unfortunately under-supported, and sometimes feel undervalued. And that is a sad truth to the profession. But it's how you deal with that, I think. I wobbled this year. It was a really tough year for me this year. Pre-COVID, pre anything, to do with the madness of the world right now. I just had a wobble. And it wasn't any one thing. And I think that's the issue, is that, and it goes back to what I was saying at the start, we forget, we, push it under the carpet, we ignore it. And then sometimes it's the little things that build up, and then suddenly you find yourself, having a wobble. And that happened to me. We don't talk about it. We don't want to let people think that we are having a wobble, or that we're struggling, or that we can't manage. And I don't know whether that's a teacher thing, or a grown-up thing, or a girl thing. But we just do. We just, oh, I'm fine. How are you doing? Yeah, I'm fine. And sometimes we're not fine. And sometimes we need to be okay with not being fine. And it is okay to not be fine. It doesn't mean that you're bad at your job. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. And it doesn't mean that you won't ever not be fine again. It comes down to, like I said, how you manage and how you deal with that negativity. So the first thing to say about it is that it is very typical, and it is very easy. If you look at your workload, and you look at your deadlines, and you look at what's happening in the world, and you miss your train, and you spill coffee down yourself, and it's so easy to go, it's too hard, I just want to stay in bed. Why did I adult today? So the first thing is just forgive yourself. You're not superhuman. Nobody is. It is okay to have a grump day. It is okay to not want to talk to anybody in your office. It is okay to type out an angry email and then save it. Never send the angry emails. You only save or discard. But sometimes you just need to put, I think, the other thing that I want to say about negative mindset is that you need to have an outlet. So I call it a strategic tantrum. And what I mean by that is exactly what it says. It is having a tantrum. It is going to someone and saying, I am not happy, rah, 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 rah. And for that person to be fine with that. I was really lucky because in my career I've had two really, really key people that I can have these strategic tantrums with. So the first one was my mentor, who was absolutely brilliant, and I knew right from day one, if I ever was upset or struggling or didn't know what to do or needed advice or whatever, I could go to her and I could sit down at her desk and go, this is my life right now, what do I do? And that was so useful in my first, I would say, 2 years, just because I did my PGCE over 2 years, so I was kind of a student over that period, because it was safe, and I knew that she would be confidential when she needed to be, and she would give me the right advice, and you know, she was who I wanted to be when I grew up. is what I would say. Even though she's not that much older than me, but hey ho. And then I kind of moved into a new area, and so for me, you know, big trigger for me, because I was like, oh, it's all different. Oh, I don't know anybody really. And my manager took me into her office. Well, not just me, that sounds weird. Took my team into her office and said, look, I've got an open door policy. If you need anything, please come and knock on the door. I'm always here. And she would quite happily just listen to me rant and sometimes swear and things about my day or about what was happening. And so find a confidant, you know, find someone who is not going to judge you, is not going to tell tales, is not going to gossip, who you trust, who you value, and who's got your back, and have that discussion, because it is definitely better out than in, because all you're going to do is dwell and stew and build, and that's not, you know, that's not a good thing for anybody. So strategic tantrums, I definitely recommend for me. It could be a significant other or spouse or whatever. I find that sometimes it's easier to have a confidant that's in your profession. My husband is my rock. He is my support system. And you know, we do swap work stories, but there are certain things that we can give each other, because I don't know his industry and he doesn't know mine. So if you can, make sure, you know, make your confidant someone who will get it, who will understand what you're talking about when you use your acronyms and your jargon, because as supportive as family can be, they can only go so far with sort of, especially if you need professional advice. So just something to keep in mind. I think one of the things to say about it as well is never stay in a negative mood. I had to. I might do a more in-depth video about this when I feel it's more relevant. But I had to kind of take a step back from myself and really think about how I was feeling, because I wasn't happy. And when I did kind of dig, I kind of realised how kind of stressed I was. But it wasn't until I kind of allowed myself to look at how I was feeling and be honest with myself that I did that. So I think, be honest, don't stay there. And that brings me to the last thing I want to talk about, which is reflection. So I know if you've done a PGCE, you will be like, oh, reflection, don't want to do it anymore. And that's fine. That's very understandable. I remember and I feel your pain. However, you never stop reflecting, ever, ever, ever. And that might be on a lesson, it might be on a scheme of learning, it might be on a resource, it might be on an interaction that you've had with somebody, but you will always reflect. And so I would say to anyone, really, but I would always say, have a space for that in your day or your week to do that, because that is teaching. It is doing something. It's creating something. It's doing something. It's reflecting, adapting, and so on and so on. And so that reflection, whatever it's about, will lead you back to creation and creativity, because you'll put something in place, whether it's a new procedure, a new rule, a new resource, a new way of doing things, that will get you out of that mindset. So that's kind of why I've put those two things together, and that is why I've kind of done a wheel of mindset. So for me, the teaching mindset is creativity, positivity, negativity, that ultimately leads us back to creativity. And just some final words: never ever beat yourself up for whatever mindset you're in. There will always be other influences and other people with other opinions that have been there, done that. They have their opinions, or they can see it from a different point of view, or whatever. And that's, I'm not saying disregard that completely, but what I'm saying is, you do you. So whatever you need and however you need to do it in order to get yourself back into the creativity, positivity mindset, then do that. Because, you know, what do you need? What do the students need? That's all that's important. And if your students are getting what they need from you, win. And the final thing that I'll say is, everything is temporary. So whether you feel like it's the worst week you've ever had, and you don't know why you came into this profession, and you don't know what you're doing, and imposter syndrome and all of that good stuff, it will pass. It will pass. And, you know, everything is temporary. So do what you can. You're amazing. We're amazing. Our students are amazing. And just remind yourself of that. So, ramble finished. Thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed what you've seen, then please give it a like. Please subscribe, and I will see you all next week. Stay safe, drink coffee. Bye guys.